All right, hello Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk. I'm your host, Sean Taylor, here with my buddy Maurice Booth.
Hello.
And
well, Sean, it's Jimmy. I keep thinking it's Jamie. Jimmy couldn't make it this week, unfortunately. He has come down with the virus.
Well, his wife, so Tide fans, be thinking about Jimmy and his family. His wife has tested positive for COVID, and so Jimmy, of course, is quarantining. So if you guys will, think about them in your thoughts and prayers if you pray. So Jimmy, in memory of you, buddy.
Well, he didn't die.
We felt like we'd have you on the show. Well, not being on the show.
He told me he doesn't want to take the test, and I asked why. He says he never does well in testing.
He never does well in testing.
Anyway.
But hey, we're gonna roll either way, just like we did this past weekend.
Yes.
Bada bing.
And he's clean.
That's right. That's right.
So sorry.
Speaking of clean.
Yes.
Pretty clean game.
It was indeed.
Pretty clean game.
It was. I know we all went with the Arkansas to cover because and we did pull people in the second half.
Yeah.
But it really this weekend showed me two things. One, we are that good, and they are that bad. And when I say we're that good, and you know me, I'm not one to.
That's correct.
I'm a little bit more skeptical.
You're a little more reserved. You want to see it.
That's a good way to put it, reserved. Yep. But we are really looking good, and I mean, in pretty much all facets.
And I do think that it didn't help, of course, with Frank's not being able to play as much. He got hurt early in the game. They went to their backup, who had some success the weekend before. But, we just were too much for that guy in that moment.
Well, he's a true freshman.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And you could tell that even though that was a really good-looking kid physically,
yeah,
it was just a little bit too much for him at this point, especially facing a team like what we have as far as, NFL players.
Yeah. I really do. I mean, I think that we played a really clean game.
Yeah.
Jimmy mentioned in some text today, talking about the fact that we're doing so much better from a penalties perspective and where we stand. And I believe we're 4th or 5th nationally. No, I'm sorry, 33rd nationally, 4th in the league.
Right.
Averaging about 4 penalties a game, way better than what we've seen in the past.
Last
and of course,
year we were 97th.
We had some frustrations with that. Just whether that was the lack of discipline, lack of focus. Maurice, I think that has a lot to do with the leadership. I think that has a lot to do with the leadership.
I think it has everything to do with leadership, preparation, attitude. And I don't want to bang on anybody from last year's team, but there seemed to be some selfishness or me first type of attitude. You can't pick up now, unless you're around the team and you constantly, you don't know who's who or what's what, rather. But you don't see it this year. It really does. And as, Coach Saban had said, prior to the season, I really like this team. I can see why now. I see what he sees.
I think that supports the statement, though, about leadership. I mean, Moses being back, even though I don't believe he's fully healthy. I don't know if you noticed, I made a comment in that game. He was noticeably limping.
Right.
He played, and man, kudos to him for being a leader and being tough and being out there. But he's noticeably not 100%.
Yeah.
But you go to the offensive side of the ball because your penalties are on both sides. The offensive line. Dickerson being a senior. And Mac Jones having, even though he had not been the starter until this year, the guys look to him from a leadership perspective. Najee Harris being a leader. Yeah. I think all of that comes into play as it relates to penalties.
Very much so. Leadership and experience. I've been there before. I've seen this. I'm used to it. And, especially on the defensive line and the offensive line. And there's a lot of experience there. And it's really starting to show. And I can't, past couple of years, you had Clemson that had an incredible defensive line. Auburn's had a great defensive line. This year, I'm willing to say that all around, Alabama's defensive line is as good as anybody's in the country, and we've talked about the offensive line.
I mean, but I agree. You talked about preparation and focus. You know, I think focus has a lot to do with it. I think that the leadership is important with respect to the preparation. I think that they are preparing because maybe this is their last hurrah from a college perspective.
Keep in mind why some of them came back and the bad taste that was in their mouth last year.
We talked about it early on in the year that, you know, Najee Harris and Devontae Smith specifically said, Dylan Moses, they came back specifically because they did not like the way the previous year ended.
Right. And knowing, I'll say it sounds conceited, I guess, a little bit, and I don't mean to, but for them knowing that, you know, we were the #1 recruiting class, you know, from years past.
Right.
And you don't even go to the championship. You don't win your division. And like I said, nothing. You know, if we go back to last year's Citrus Bowl, and I was on Mac and all that about how flat they look, understandably so. I don't want to be here. I should be playing somewhere else and then playing for the national championship.
The Alabama way, I mean.
Exactly. So you take that mindset and you let it simmer and burn for about 7 or 8 months. And then when it's time, and now it just seems like it's very natural thought process for them, that leadership, just that overall mentality of let's do it right, let's do it right the first time, no mistakes, stay focused, and we got this. And I think they are, no disrespect to other teams in the SEC, they are ready to compete against someone. They want to, you know, every boxer doesn't mind a punch in the mouth to kind of wake me up because now I'm going to really punch you back. I think this team is ready to punch.
Yeah, I think that says a lot about just as you mentioned, the guys that came back, the purpose. You know, maybe sometimes it takes getting hit in the mouth.
Yeah.
You know, Nick Saban said at the end of last year, sometimes you got to be knocked down to get yourself back up and see how you respond to being knocked down. And now I think just the game showed, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Arkansas game, but just that game showed some patience. You know, I was texting early on, you know, man, they're not going to let us throw the deep ball, and we're so used to striking quick and scoring quick and hitting the big play up top. Well, they were specific about stopping that. Right. And I think we showed some great resolve and patience by, you know, 6 passes to the tight end that led all receivers.
Yeah.
You know, hitting that little underneath route, hitting the underneath route. And except for the one I just got out of my mouth on text, man, Mac's doing a really good job. And then he tries to force that.
Right.
Granted, it's washed away because of the penalty.
But if same thing is, that's like right when he was doing it, I was like, oh man, this could be one of those plays. Oh, you're an idiot. But I was texting too.
That's right.
But you don't know her. But that's another story. But it was just one of those.
Are you sure I don't know her?
Hey, you could. I don't want to get into that.
Anyway.
But no, I thought, it was again one of those games where I hate to say it, you just were never worried.
Right. So. Yeah, I mean, frustrated early on just because I thought we appeared, and we talked about it. You know, we talked about it on the show about coming out flat in the second half, and we looked a little flat, and we talked a little bit about that. But man, you know, the return from Devontae, and then from that moment, it was never looked back.
Right.
You know, and so, I think, man, what a clean game. Good to see. Good to see us play a game like that.
On the road.
Yeah, on the road.
Hostile crowd.
Minimal penalties,
right.
You know, which means we're really focused, which is huge coming into this part of the season. So,
absolutely.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about the Arkansas game, and then, of course, you know, get into the elephant in the room. And
Jimmy's quiet.
Another SEC championship.
Yeah, so, finally.
Tide fans, hold your seats. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Enjoy the good times a little more with the right plan. As your State Farm agent, I am here to help you protect your dreams and loved ones with life insurance. With over 60 years combined State Farm experience, call me or any of my team to find out which options are best for you. Another way we're here to help life go right.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. You know, Maurice, we were just saying just the clean game, focus, leadership, some of the things that we've, wanted to see more throughout the year. Last week we talked and we were kind of jumping the gun. We were talking about the SEC championship game and we were talking about Florida. What I didn't see is the fact that what we've said for other teams is I didn't see us looking ahead.
Right.
I saw us really trying to do the things that we were able to do. As I mentioned, their defense was keeping us from going up top.
Right.
I don't even remember, Maurice, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember us throwing
I think there was one ball that was one deep ball, maybe.
Yeah.
But if I'm a defensive coordinator, you can dink and dunk on me. I'm not going to let Devontae Smith. I'm telling my DBs, do not let any of these guys get by you.
Yeah.
They can catch.
Well, they were playing 3 high safety just about all day.
Yeah, they didn't come out of it. And I don't blame them. I mean, pick your poison, and they chose to, let us run a little bit and go underneath the force stall, and that's fine.
Now, I was really pleased with decision-making from Mac Jones, really pleased. Again, he made that one. But it's so difficult as a competitor when you want to hit that play up top or when you want to make, that big play. Other than that one mistake, man, he played a really, really clean game. I think he ended up 24 for 29, 208 yards.
Right. I mean, it wasn't anything astronomical as far as yardage, and I don't think he felt the need to. And, I think our main focus, and probably Coach Saban's, was let's get out of here healthy. You got Christian Harris that's got a little shoulder tweak, and I hadn't heard anything other than.
I have not heard anything about what it is.
No, I can find out the next commercial break and just see. But other than a slight separation, he didn't really have anything, and you just wanted to get out of there. It was a bad field. There was a lot of nothing against the staff at Arkansas. It was just kind of a wet field. Yeah. And you want to get out. Which
played a role early. I mean, you saw Najee Harris try to make several cuts.
I got worried one time when Mac stepped back and on his foot where he was playing, and it slid. I was like, for a lot of quarterbacks, that's where a lot of bad things can happen.
That's right.
So we got out of there, safe, getting ready for the championship game. Back to your point, if you want to take the 3 deep all day long, okay. Well, that's going to leave everything else underneath.
I mean, we scored 52 points. We did not have a passing touchdown. And, again, as you said, we get out of there healthy, and minus Christian Harris, right. Who we hear is possible to play. I was really pleased with our defense. Early on, they moved the ball a little bit. They did some things, to kind of keep us off balance, it seemed, but boy, we picked it up. Yeah. Really impressed with Patrick Surtain. We don't hear his name a whole lot. Again, we talked about that. People stay away from him. I think he's going to have a really big challenge this weekend.
Yeah, you got Florida that's got several weapons. If Kyle wants to play, I don't know if you saw today's comments.
No, I didn't see that.
It's in the tweet or in our text. Check it out. Talking about he really never considered Alabama, and so we're just a small country.
He was not I did see that. He was not a country boy.
Right. Okay. I don't even know where he's from, but Gainesville isn't exactly New York or Atlanta.
Right.
So be it. But you would think that people learning, don't poke the bear. No pun intended.
No pun intended.
So so be it. But it's we're ready to play another one. But I liked what Coach, I don't know if you saw the post-game interview where the young lady asked Coach, or the reporter, I should say, asked Coach Saban, you know, she insinuated this was your team's goal to win 10 games. He goes, no, our goal was to win the next week.
Right.
And so, to your point, leading up into this week was to just win this game. But at the same time, you know that you want to be the first SEC team to win.
First team, yeah.
To
in
win
SEC
10.
history to win 10 games, 10 ACC games.
Exactly. And you may never get to see that again just because of the conditions of everything. So, you know, goals met, you just love the chemistry that it seems on the sideline.
Yeah.
Everybody happy for everybody else.
And Maurice, what do every week it seems like there's a potential record being broken, or we broke a record, or there's a record about to be broken. Do you think that that's even a thought for Nick Saban, or is he just more concerned about wins and losses?
I don't know. You can't be, and I don't think you would be either as a coach, because, and to be quite honest with you, it gets overwhelming because there are so many records. So instead of focusing on, well, do I want Devontae to get another record? Do I want Najee to get another record? Do I want Matt? Just play. Just play. Let's just win, and this, whatever happens, happens. Now, I feel safe in saying that if Nick knew that, I mean, Coach Saban knew that, you know, something was on the line for one of the players and it just took a little something extra, sure, he'd let him
Well, it's like this past weekend. We were talking on tech. I mean, it was almost so obvious that they were trying to throw a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
I mean, that, you know, we were up, we were down in the red zone. We had been running it on them, already scored, I think, 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns. It was very obvious we were trying to run a touchdown.
Yeah, you wanted to keep something going for Mac.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, here we are, we're going into that game thinking Mac. Midway through the game, we were texting, I said, there's a Heisman moment.
Smitty, that's right.
And that's kind of what you need, and I applaud, who is the color man? Dan Orlowski, or I can't remember
the new guy.
Yeah, he said, and I agree with him, and I'm really tired of just because you're a quarterback, you get Heisman recognition. You know, it is, Devontae is different. He's a wide receiver. You haven't had one win it, I guess, since Tim Brown or Desmond. And so it's different. And would we be would we still win without Mac? We'd probably struggle, but we'd win. Without Devontae,
especially with Waddle being hurt.
Exactly.
Especially with Waddle
because
being
I think
hurt.
you see a difference from those three starting to starting with the 4th, 5th, and 6th receiver. Nothing against them; they've got plenty of time to develop.
Right.
But they're, of course, not at the same level as
it was one of the things that I was, and listen, man, not just from a catching perspective, not just from a receiving perspective. You see Mechie blocking downfield like nobody's business.
Right.
You see Smitty downfield blocking like nobody's business. Mm-hmm. You know, it was even very evident later in the game. Holden, number 11, one of the backup receivers, missed a block.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't pick up. We don't convert on a third. I mean, it's the little things that sometimes people don't recognize because you think wide receiver, that's running routes and catching, catching balls.
Right. And you got to think that in this receiving core, that when they're watching film or they're going through individuals, that is a main part of it. And if you don't do it, and you can see the reaction on some of them, like, you missed my. You got to get me so I can get you.
That's
when
right.
It's your turn.
Yeah.
So, and you know that's kind of uncomfortable in the film room.
Yeah.
So
before we go to break, I'm going to pose this question. See if you know the answer. You can answer it when we come back.
Oh, pose. I'm sorry.
Yeah, good. When we come back, when's the last time?
1942.
You knew I was coming with it, didn't you?
I have no idea. What's the question?
Close though. 2 teammates finished 1st and 2nd in the Heisman.
Glenn Davis, Doc Blanchard.
Nice. Back in
Thank you.
1943. And who did they play for?
Army.
Army. Very good. Very,
Mr. Inside,
folks,
Mr.
that's why I have him on the show.
Mr.
It's
Inside,
not-
Mr. Outside.
It's not just the hair, it's the knowledge.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're going to take a short break.
It's got to be the shoes.
On behalf of Bob English, yes, European, by the way. On
didn't
behalf
know.
of Bob English and State Farm, we'll be right back, Tide fans, with Tide Talk.
In life, some things just go together, like a burger and fries, and home and auto insurance from State Farm. So make it a combo. Combining your home and auto insurance could save you time and money. And who doesn't like that? Just call me, Bob English, or any of my experienced hometown team and find out how you could start saving today. It's just another way.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. You know, right there before the break, yes, Maurice, the last time two teammates finished first and second was 1943, and you were correct. It was Army. Good possibility that happens again.
Very possible.
Whether that's Smitty being the Heisman winner and Mac being number 2, or vice versa.
There's still a lot of football left before we get ahead of ourselves, because the award this year isn't going out until January the 5th. So I would assume that voting cuts off probably the 31st.
My understanding is it's after this weekend. I could be wrong.
No. That would make sense, because they've never included bowls
Correct.
in their.
It's after this weekend.
So after championship week, which would make sense. So Trevor, Justin Fields, which I think he's got to be off. I think then their entire team.
I mean,
should be
currently the numbers are showing Mac, Devontae, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence.
I thought Devontae moved ahead.
Right now they're equal at the percentage of
So it will be. This will be this. Folks, I'm trying to think. The last time you had the Heisman was already awarded, but the three top people would
Playing
have been
in the
the
same
Rose
game.
Bowl, would have been Texas and USC with Bush, Leinart, and Vince
Yeah.
Young. So this will be. You should just watch it for that. Trask, Mac, and Devontae.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting,
Yeah.
and I have an idea which way it's going to
Looking forward to seeing this is our 10th time playing Florida in the SEC championship game.
be. Right. It's funny how when we first started doing this in '92, it was an uphill battle against Florida, and of late
Right.
it hasn't
Yeah.
been. So, which is the way it should be. Sorry.
I'm thinking, as we were talking last week, I'm thinking it's going to be a more challenging game, but I have seen that the spread is up to 17.
Right.
That makes me believe.
It's 17 in a shoe.
Correct.
So
17. That's right.
I mean half. 17 and a half size shoe. That's a big foot.
That is a big foot.
Yeah, he goes by Sasquatch.
But it makes me lean toward Alabama covering big time.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to get into that.
I mean, it makes me believe that this 17 points, in my opinion, based on what's at stake, based on the two teams. Granted, Florida lost the LSU game, should not have lost that game. The point spread, in my opinion, should be less. But with it being more, it makes me more confident that Alabama should cover and cover big.
Yes. And I will. I know it's kind of early. We don't want to get into the actual thing, but I'll give you this stat. I looked it up today, and I was telling y'all last week and over the weekend, Florida cannot run the ball. And when I say they cannot run the ball,
being one-dimensional,
Pfizer is trying to get a patent on them to see why they can't get the runs. They just cannot. It's that bad. They were ranked 100th in the country in rushing offense. That is, I mean, it is bad.
Yeah, I just don't believe, we said it last week, Maurice, I just don't believe that a one-dimensional team that does not have a dual threat quarterback, I don't think Trask is considered a dual threat quarterback, can beat Alabama.
I mean, think about it. If you're a defensive coordinator and you're facing a team that's ranked 100th in the country, they have 1,200, a little over 1,200 total yards rushing for the year. Najee almost has that. And so if I'm going to face that, I'm bringing everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling the defensive line,
Yeah.
you
Gonna see a lot of
just
dime.
come
Yeah.
on. You don't have to wait. If they draw, then linebackers eat it up.
Yeah.
It's just not. They may get 1 or 2 runs, but they are just. I hate to say it, they're just not capable of sustaining a consistent running attack through the game.
Yeah, I agree. You know, we picked that out, and as I said, you know, I watched them this past weekend against. You know, and listen, I think LSU played a really good football game considering. I think they played well. They played a lot of freshmen, but they played well. They played with some passion. But against a team that we put up big numbers on, and they lose, if you can't do both against an Alabama team, a Nick Saban coached Alabama team. Now, man, if they go out there and throw it 60 times and you know, and they're going to put up some points. I think they'll score. They got some really talented players. Pitts is a talented player. Tony is a talented player. Trask is a good quarterback.
Right.
Can't take anything away from them. They're going to score some points. I just don't know that they can score enough to beat Alabama.
No, they cannot.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say mismatch. It's a mismatch. So just leave it at that.
Just tell it like it is.
I mean, I'm telling you, this Alabama team is, as far as confidence, I would have to probably go back to the 70s where they lined up and you just knew the teams couldn't. You go back to the 79 team, they're that good. They went undefeated. But it's different now because the talent is really so concentrated between 4 teams.
Maurice, I really believe that from an offensive perspective. I believe our offensive team feels like they can score when they get the football. You see that in the way that our line plays, in the way that Mac Jones handles the offense, in the way that Najee carries the football. What I'm really impressed with that I'm starting to see more is the confidence that the defense is gaining.
Yeah.
You know, you're starting to see DBs play a little more freely. Right. They're breaking on passes. Linebackers are really being aggressive. The defensive line, man, Barmore is,
he's getting comfortable.
He is really, really coming into his own as a pass rusher.
And the one that you always talk about, Tim Smith, did you see him explode?
Yes.
It was like, what cannon did he come out
right.
of?
Where did
I felt bad for the
And listen, the guy's playing basically half the time. DJ Dale is still the starter. I believe DJ Dale has a role. He's a run stopper. Yeah. You know, he is a guy that's clogging up, as you mentioned before, not much of a pass rusher. But I'm starting to see that when we are in passing situations, DJ Dale's not in the game.
Right.
You know, you got Tim Smith and Barmore and
we got spoiled with Deron Payne and Quinton Williams.
Right.
You don't ever see.
You didn't need anybody else, really. You were getting rushed from the inside and the outside.
There's only 2 or 3 people that I can think of that play in the middle that are that fast.
Right.
And can stay in the pass.
Which reminds me, real quick, Maurice, I didn't see much of Christian Allen this weekend.
No, I didn't either.
I don't even recall him.
I don't think it was out. I didn't hear any injury report or anything.
Yeah, that's something we need to check into.
But I mean, wait, if you go back to the beginning of the season, I said I would like for us to get back to where we were a few years ago, where there was complete rotation. We're there.
Right. Yeah, we are.
When you don't see Christian Allen, but you see everybody else playing very well. I mean, heck, LeBron Ray. He's had great years. Now he's had some injuries this year, but. I mean, that was somebody that we were depending on. I would, love. I think he's a great player, but he hasn't been able to because of injuries, and so now everybody else. So
somebody's stepping.
It's a young defense for the most part.
I was going to say, and Young is playing really well.
Yeah,
Fladarian Mathis is playing really well.
Yes.
We've said it before on offense and defense. It all happens up front. And man, our defensive front is starting to play with some confidence. They're starting to play with that intensity and that passion that we said weeks ago that we wanted to see, that we weren't seeing.
Again, we don't give enough credit. And I was serious. And I don't know if you, after I texted it, you started watching. The offensive line, God bless Arkansas's defensive line. It was
Just dominate, yeah.
your turn. I mean, it's like everybody was taking, there was no, Mac Jones, he got dirtier in stretching than he did during the game.
So much time. And even Sam Pittman, he said, look, he said, those guys are absolute monsters. He said Mac Jones had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
And he said we had to choose. Stop the deep route, which means we're going to rush less.
Oh, that was a good strategy, even though they, we scored.
But you can't give Mac Jones that much time because he
Can't
will.
Right. You can't give any quarterback that much time, let alone somebody that's 6'5" and can sling it.
All right, so prediction time.
17 is the line. I'm gonna say let's say something like 48-10.
48-10. We're close, except for I'm going to give them a little
47-11.
48-24.
Wow.
48-24. I think they'll score some points. I think we'll have to make some adjustments. But I do believe that we will score 48 plus points, possibly even 50.
Right.
I do believe that they will struggle stopping Mac Jones and company, and I just don't see. I don't see that happening. I think that they're going to throw the ball a lot. I think that's going to that's going to challenge us in a lot of areas. Man, if we can get some pass rush without sending extra people, then we may be closer to 48-10.
Right. And if Jimmy was here, I don't know what. Sorry, he'd probably say something close to that.
Probably. So we'll be back right here again next week on Channel 207. Check us out on our YouTube
Check
channel.
on Jimmy.
Hopefully another SEC championship. What will that be for us, by the way? 25? I think we have 24 now.
I believe so.
So that would be
Right.
25 SEC championships. So Tide fans, it's going to be a great weekend of football. Alabama, Florida, 10th time around in the SEC championship game. So we'll see you next week right here. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Jimmy.